Prison of Elders welcomes you. Do not fail, Guardian.
This is the Prison of Elders, a 3-player activity released with the House of Wolves expansion alongside Trials of Osiris back in May of 2015. Prison of Elders was a huge deal for Destiny and a huge deal for gaming in general. So in today's video, we talk about the precursors to the Prison of Elders, how this activity fits so perfectly into what the game of Destiny was missing, how it satisfied every type of player, its impact outside of Bungie's brand new IP Destiny, the hardest boss Destiny ever made, and if the Prison of Elders could and should ever return. Let's begin. I'd like to remind you that we are almost at 200,000 subscribers, so if you guys do enjoy this video, or if you don't and you're watching the video, please hit subscribe. Thank you. I'll love you forever. Goodbye. Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. On September 9th of 2014, millions of players logged on to Bungie's brand new and inventive world with little knowledge of what the hell it was supposed to be. Was this a game centered around fighting waves of the Covenant in a co-op designed arena? Was this a game focused on story? Was this a game focused on multiplayer? What the hell was this thing called Destiny? Well, we're still asking ourselves that question to this day. But in the year of 2014, Destiny hit all of those notes that had interested gamers. First-person shooter, check. Looter, check. Using loot from the campaign against each other with the best feeling gunplay and gaming supported by satisfying abilities. Ooh, that's a new one. The hype for this game was next level, and people already started making YouTube videos centered around details of the game before it ever came out.
Hello everyone, my name is Dado and thanks for stopping by. In order to get you up to speed for the Destiny E3 event, I have researched all the information I could possibly find and have put it into this video.
Players dropped everything they had to give this game the old college try. And I think it's safe to say that every single player had a vision of this game in their own head. Millions of people would be disappointed by Destiny for not being what they wanted it to be. From complaints of the game being too hard, to the story being a scrap of Joe Staten's original vision, Destiny had millions of people leaving within the first week of launch. But millions of people still fell in love with the game. Destiny may not have had the best reviews at launch, but with a solid world being built, memorable characters with story beats that were interesting enough to sink your teeth into, and some very satisfying progression for those who wish to seek it, Destiny had just as much a cult following as a cult hatred towards it. Strikes where the goal was to hide and not get fried by this dude rocking a machine gun the size of the Eiffel Tower. Crucible to fight some dude who had full heavy ammo. And finally, well, that was about it for the activities in the game. Vault of Glass makes its triumphant debut with not a whole lot of coverage from Bungie. Seriously, it's hard to even find a high quality trailer of the raid. But this was clearly the end experience in the game with loot that, well, you know, I have a video on this one already, so you might just want to check that one out. Other than the Vault of Glass, there was really only a couple more activities that garnered attention for a while. Iron Banner for sure being the, at the time, Crucible endgame experience, and Queen's Wrath. We'll save talking about Iron Banner for now, but for the purpose of this video, it's important that we discuss the anomaly of Destiny, the Queen's Wrath. Queen's Wrath is what I'll call a one-time experience. I don't expect anyone to remember this activity, which dropped on October 6th of 2014, but as a refresher or introduction, the Queen's Wrath was the precursor to the focal point of this video. Queen's Wrath was all about playing harder versions of missions you had already done with added incentive. The missions were pretty brutal and at times repetitive, but the rewards were those precious upgrade materials needed to level up your gear to max. Think about how Shadowkeep and Beyond Light in Destiny 2 have Ascendant Shards being the end goal material. At the time of this video, you need 1 to 3 to upgrade an armor piece to max level. But back then, you needed somewhere around 30 ascendant materials to fully upgrade one piece of gear. Queen's Wrath was a way to speed that up by offering 2 per completion of a mission with the rare chance at a legendary weapon named the Supremacy. Now there were other weapons in full armor sets, but the weapons were blue weapons that looked pretty damn legit too, if I'm being honest, with the insanely low chance of Supremacy and a couple of cosmetics to go with it. This event was a short-lived blast to the player base, and after this 1 week event, we would never see it return. My guess on why it never returned is that the development time on the Queen's Wrath would be really difficult since, you know, it had full armor sets and weapons, but it served as a nice teaser for the future of the game.
When the Fallen sought to destroy us, I protected the reef. In the end, we showed them mercy. They met that mercy with betrayal. Now, they will feel my wrath.
The House of Wolves DLC launched, and it added an activity that I can only describe as a big deal. The big Destiny baddie named Skolas, the Kell of Kells, was trying to use Vex technology to jump through time and even sent a bunch of his crew into the Vaulted Glass. By the end of this story, with the help of Queen Marasav, we capture Skolas and send him to, say it with me now, the Prison of Elders. See, you did it by yourself. Look at you go. Meet the Prison of Elders, one of 2 activities introduced in the House of Wolves. We already talked about the Trials of Osiris, but let's talk about this bad boy. The Prison of Elders, released on the same day as the DLC, was one of the staples of Destiny 1, and for very good reason. A brief overview of this activity is that it was, well, a prison for each enemy race and ran by the blue aliens, the Awoken. Skolas may have been thrown in there, but it was going to be a climb to get to fight him. First thing you got to know about this activity is that the modifiers like grounded, airborne, brawler, small arms, special arms, burns, you name it, they were all here, but they changed per room as you entered, as well as the objectives changing per room too. Anything from
Dismantle mines, yes, or die.
to kill enemies, stop Captain from reaching the end goal, etc. I like that this activity really found a middle ground in repetitive content. Sure, you were just killing ads after all, but they weren't pushovers, and with the quick objective timers, you actually had to move out of cover constantly. Modifiers made you think about changing your loadout for once, but also not really in year 1 with Galahorn, Fatebringer, and Black Hammer. Still, I liked adjusting my loadout per room, especially on the harder difficulties. Oh yeah, that's right. Not only was there multiple themed rooms of each enemy race, but there was also scalable difficulty for people who wanted more of a challenge from it. Imagine scalable difficulties in endgame content. From the Hive room where you'd probably sit in the corner for cover, then sending a Blade Dancer invis to capture a flag, to the Cabal room of sitting in the spawn as much as possible unless dictated to move. As those levels went up, things started slapping you around. Enemies gained shields and yellow bars of health, and the bosses started to pop up more frequently. Once you beat the final round, however, you
Retreat to airlock.
and retrieve the treasure from the massive queen's chest at the end. Except, well, you forgot your treasure key, didn't you dingus? Treasure keys, treasure key farming, however you wanted to put it, these keys were given through a public event called The Wolves Are Prowling. A neat public event added in the House of Wolves expansion that gave a nice lift to old areas that didn't have content. No content on the Cosmodrome? Here's a captain that drops a chest. Want to get a chest once? Sure, if you're a rookie. The pros grab this chest by driving in and out of the loading zone by themselves and grabbing it anywhere from 4 to 8 times if you were fast enough. You had an ether key timer, so you still had to be quick about it, and treasure keys were random drops from these chests. But man, oh man, did I like this system a lot, because it was RNG on top of RNG with exciting loot at the end of a difficult activity. Once you eventually got your treasure key, it was time to head back to the Prison of Elders go through everything again and grab that chest. The coolest part about this chest is that on reset, it granted a guaranteed exotic as well as one of the weapons from the Prison of Elders. Now, if you were like me, you never received Gjallarhorn from this chest, but you had that chance, man. You just had that chance. The added bonus was the side chest, which guaranteed motes of light to be turned in for emblems and other goodies at the time, like strange coins for our boy Zur on Fridays. The Prison of Elders weapons were pretty legit too, only if you ignore that one size fits all loadout in PvE in Destiny 1 at the time. I played the hell out of this activity for weapons I knew I wasn't going to prioritize over my FBG loadout, but I think that speaks levels to this activity's success. Not only could you grab weapons like the Wolf's Leash, Aegis of the Kell, Six Dreg Pride, Shadow of Veils, etc., all of these were fitted with a mod slot that increased damage to fallen enemies, but also with a wide perk pool including scopes and handling options, as well as damage upgrades for the price of Radiant Energy. Oh yeah, and for House of Wolves, Bungie knew that loot with a wide perk pool was rare to snag a god roll, so you could spend materials to have Banshee 44, Clovis Bray, re-roll them for you. It's safe to say that I really liked House of Wolves. Also, what is that Radiant Energy thing, you ask? Or didn't ask, but you know where I'm going with this. Just stick with me, buddy. Radiant Energy was just another grinder's dream of an upgrade material that was found in the big treasure key chest and used to upgrade the endgame loot exclusively. Once again, I'm gonna stress that the leveling system from year one of Destiny 1 will always be my favorite of the bunch. Using materials to upgrade gear and adding levels to it from those upgrades made for some seriously satisfying progression. Were you a fan of this system? Let me know in the comments. The other piece you received once per character per week was either an armor core or a weapon core, which if turned in granted you a random piece of armor or a random weapon from the Prison of Elders from Variks. Did I mention that Variks was the dude that ran this place? This somewhat trustworthy guy had a raging, massive, and veiny passion for Skolas the whole time during the campaign, but here he was the vendor for these cores. These cores in tandem could even be turned in for a random weapon or armor piece. Kind of a neat concept, but I don't see the point of it fully. Also, there was a token of flight, which could be turned in for a ship. Yeah, this was the drop nobody wanted. I'm not judging. The Prison of Elders really had something for everybody. A nice easy mode for people that didn't want to take it too seriously, but still wanted some loot. Harder difficulties with rewards that scaled up accordingly. A massive list of weapons in year one, which included 10 guns and full armor sets per character. Even if you didn't love the Prison of Elders, participating in it leveled up the Queen's Wrath from Petrovenge. That's right, the Queen's Wrath precursor turned into a full vendor again, this time focused on a reputation system, which gave up to 9 weapons, which, yes, could also drop from the chest in the Prison of Elders. The only weapon that I could find that wasn't on this list of weapons was my baby in year one of Destiny 1. That's right, the Supremacy. Yeah, I know it's in Destiny 2 and that her benevolence was basically the same, but I will die on this hill. Never forget final round sniping someone in the leg in Trials. Busted for sure, but damn, it was fun. Prison of Elders fit everything Destiny needed to bring some life to the game. Not only did you have 2 raids by now, but you had a whole heap of strikes, some of which came with the House of Wolves DLC. I'm talking about you, Tanix. You never seem to die. Trials of Osiris for the weekends, and now a 3-player gauntlet style arena to grab some amazing loot and face a hard challenge. This space was full of aliens to wreck, mechanics that were satisfying for the time of Destiny 1 and that got you out of cover, and a cast of bosses that were themed to fit each room. Speaking of challenge though, I should probably talk about the hardest boss Destiny ever made, which was also the easiest boss at the same time. Yeah, let me break it down. Skolas, yeah, that captain that I'm sure Variks has a fanfic novel of, was and still remains the hardest boss fight Destiny 1 had ever produced. This dude was at the end of the level 35 Prison of Elders. Remember, the cap on level with max upgrades to all of your weapons and armor was level 34. So Skolas being a 35 meant you were already going to be underleveled entering this Prison of Elders match. After the hardest version of each room that the prison had to offer, there was a fight against a servitor as the final fight. Yeah, this giant circle got the sauce pretty quick, but just as you thought you were going to return to the airlock, one final fighter was on the table.
You face the trial of Skolas.
House of Wolves expansion. Skolas, the Kell of Kells, is the ultimate test in both skill and patience for Destiny players. This encounter was so grueling on launch that Bungie needed to halve his hit points in a patch in order to make the fight fair. Even with this nerf, however, you best be prepared for the fight of your life.
Let's move on to Skolas. Oh, Skolas. I was impressed with the mechanics of this fight. The devouring essence keeps you on your feet, and the breaking the bonds mechanic is cool. I wasn't expecting much from this fight, but from a mechanic standpoint, I think it's sound. What's not sound is essentially everything else. And let's just say that games tend to lose a lot of their fun levels when you're capable of dying in one shot, especially to things that you can't even see or react to. Being killed by a drive-by captain shooting is not fun. Being killed from a wire rifle in one shot from 100 yards away is not fun. Dying tends to be more along the lines of, I was standing slightly out of position for half a second, as opposed to I did something wrong or stupid and died because of it. Unpreventable or unpredictable deaths are bad. Instant deaths are a bad thing to have to try and play around. And you guys know me, I love a challenge, I love difficult content. But this content isn't difficult in the fun way, it's difficult in the super frustrating way of instant deaths, RNG teleports, and non-stop ad killing.
Skolas would damn near one-shot you if he locked eyes with you. The ads would fight tooth and nail to see you dead, and only an invisible servitor was your key to start damaging Skolas. Before we get into the fight's mechanics, I need to lay out why this fight was so difficult. In Destiny 1, there was no healing rifts, barely any exotics to provide strong benefits to your builds, no mods to tack onto your armor for extra defense, no Warmind cells to kill a whole room of enemies, and for the Prison of Elders, barely any cover from the bosses and other ads. The only thing that was on your side for the first week with Skolas was that it was solar burn. So not having Gallowhorn was basically a death wish on week 1. This boss did shoot solar at you and teleported all over the place. But on week 1, it was over in about 30 seconds with Gallowhorn from all 3 players if you hit your shots. Bosses in Destiny 1, and especially Skolas, had a metric shitload of health too, taking all 3 players full Gallowhorns and heavy ammo synths on top of that to take him down. Let's ignore the week 1 solar Gallowhorn strats for a second and talk about literally any other week where this boss was so hard that they had to nerf him twice. Yeah, no joke, Skolas got nerfed twice. Surrounded by all of the ads in the world that were all level 35 was too hard for players in the game. The boss would damn near one-shot you, so if you couldn't bake, you were basically done. The invisible servitor was the way to hit for more than 10 damage at a time to Skolas, but once the damage was done and the servitor's bonds broke, Skolas started his next mechanic called Devouring Essence. Basically, someone had random poison with a 30-second countdown to death. The only way to stop the death was to have someone else grab the essence from the player, with the catch-22 that you had to triangle the essence around, because once you lost the essence, there was a minute-long timer that started. So all 3 players had to contribute. What I also really liked about this fight is that you had to
Dismantle mine.
with short timers and ads everywhere while someone had the essence. There was no sitting still this whole level 35 run up to Skolas, and there definitely was not about to be any now. Eventually, if you did beat the hardest boss in Destiny's history, you were greeted with the sound of a satisfying kill.
Alright, get that mine, get that mine.
And loot up the arse.
Pop it right here over the Queen's Wrath. Yeah. Boom, now we all dance. DP. Do it, do it. Oh, dude, 2 weapon cores. What'd you get in the big one? What'd you get in the big one? Whoa, dude. Yo, I got the ship. I got the f***ing ship. Hell yeah.
You wouldn't even realize it, but those rounds ended up being about the length of a raid, usually around 45 minutes to an hour and a half. The chest, however, added an amazing looking awoken ship as well as the Queen's Web shader, one of my favorites by far. Something I didn't mention before is that the Prison of Elders had unique exotics too. Dreg's Promise, not great exotic sidearm, only obtained from RNG in the Prison of Elders Cypher bounty from Variks, as well as the Queensbreaker's bow. A fusion rifle special ammo sniper was only a chance from the final chest inside the Prison of Elders, and of course, a staple to Destiny 2 as well, Lord of Wolves. The exotic high rate of fire shotgun was only found from the same bounty as Dreg's Promise. All of these just added to the hype that was the Prison of Elders, solidifying this activity as a huge deal for Destiny and proving that the game had a lot more in stock than what was at launch. Let's go back to the final fight though for a second. Skolas is the main reason I believe Gjallarhorn was nerfed so hard and that it was sunset from year 2 of Destiny. This weapon was the only way you were going to beat this boss efficiently. It was Solar Week or you were in for a waiting period until the next Solar Week. What a wild ride Prison of Elders truly was in year 1. A full set of weapons and armor, challenging and new bosses with modifiers per room, a chase and other avenues of the game to punch in your rewards, and some of the most memorable times I think I've ever had playing a video game. This wasn't the end though. Oh no. Prison of Elders received some amazing updates in the form of Challenge of the Elders in the Taken King, and later updated with Rise of Iron as well. Challenge of the Elders was the true gauntlet. 3 boss fights in a row, including this dude,
Psylocke, the Defiled, thirsts for your light.
and a ton of new bosses here. This was awesome since it had a full-on scoring system and incentivized players to go for high scores to get the Elder Sigil maxed out to 90,000 and get the new loot from the final chest. One thing I really appreciated about Destiny 1 here was the fact that every year of content came with old activities having life breathed into them. Psylocke being a Taken boss added to that world building, and yes, there were new weapons to chase in the prison too, one of which being named after a Taken. A reputation system was also added in full to the Prison of Elders in the Taken King, which added to the experience greatly. It's safe to say that this activity was a staple to the Destiny experience, and other games communities started to take some notes on what Bungie was doing here. Now, let's be real. A gauntlet is nothing new to games, but the execution and love for what Bungie was doing solidified the House of Wolves experience with Destiny as the official launch of the brand new IP. I would go out on a limb and argue that the Prison of Elders and Trials of Osiris's impact at launch got a lot of people that disliked Destiny to come back and give it a try when the Taken King launched. It's one of the main reasons that so many people called Destiny a complete game in year 2 instead of year 1. I love the Prison of Elders and House of Wolves as a whole. It was my personal favorite era of Destiny, and I honestly think it will always be. So now you know the story of the Prison of Elders, one of Destiny's staples and one of the best times to game with friends, period. The question that you're probably asking, I'm asking, and maybe Bungie is asking is, will it or can it or should it or whatever it return to its glory in Destiny 2? I'm gonna say yes and no. Yes, it could absolutely return with the same weapons and armor as before, but the mechanics have evolved in Destiny to the point now that I think Bungie wouldn't want to just throw waves of enemies at players. Think about mods and abilities for a second. We would crush everything in an instant. I mean, Warmind cells alone would clear a whole room, and healing rifts, well, you know how I feel about those in the Well of Radiance. If Bungie were to bring it back, there would need to be a focus on making it challenging and keeping our interest in the activity for sure. Story-wise, it wouldn't make a ton of sense, but I've also seen plenty of story decisions get made that don't make sense either. So yeah, I'm calling bullshit on people who say story impacts the activities in this game. If you don't remember, Forsaken started in the Prison of Elders, and not only did Cade die, but the prison was pretty much blown to pieces, as well as the servitor that talked for Variks in the strike. It does make me wonder about something though. If Variks is back, if the game has all of the assets it would need, including a fully remastered room in the prison and an easy layup of content to keep people excited, I truly think that this activity would become a staple again. Bungie can do a lot, but it seems like the new era of Destiny is starting to take place, and I've seen the Prison of Elders type of activity get done in a new way before with the Menagerie. So who knows if Bungie will ever make the Prison of Elders happen again, or if it's already happened before our eyes. I think in my ideal world there would be a Prison of Elders again, but in the rundown prison, utilizing those assets from Forsaken. I would cap mods that players could use and incentivize higher rewards the more you struggle with losing abilities, similar to how one of my favorite games, Hollow Knight, handles its Pantheon. But let's be real, that's just wishful thinking. I want to know what you think should or could happen with the Prison of Elders though. Let me know in the comments, my second YouTube channel, you guys should go subscribe to that, socials, or on my stream. I want to thank you guys so much again for watching this video. It took me a while to make, and it feels really good talking about this subject. This was my favorite era of Destiny 1, and yeah, I'm very biased to it since it was a cool moment in my life before responsibility took over. But I'm still making videos about Destiny, so who knows how much responsibility I have. It was a very special time, and I hope it resonates with you. And until next time, be sure to subscribe and have a good one.
Guardian down.
Eyes of tomorrow. I'll see you boys on the other side. Oh my God. Oh my God. He's indestructible. What the fuck?